Hello, YTPC. So, Cornell and Diehl, black, Frigate. Been sipping on this one for a few days now, trying to decide where exactly I stand on this blend. I will first say, and I usually don't get into tin note whatsoever, but on opening up the tin of this, it comes in a crumble cake. It's a beautiful looking brownie. But while I went ahead and broke that up, and even before I did, there was the smell, and I can only equate this to one thing, and there'll again be only probably a handful of people who have grown up around farms, specifically cow dairy farms, that might understand this. But oftentimes they would have, I would presume that it's hay, although it had a very grass smell. But they would have, just endless piles of this stuff inside these overhangs that were open on both ends. Almost like an open-ended lean-to type style thing, but very large, very tall. With these huge industrial-sized tarps over these massive, we're talking 15 plus feet, very, very possible more, like in 20 feet high mounds of grass or hay, and covered in these tarps, with these giant tires holding the tarps down, and it would ferment like that. I don't know precisely what they were creating. Obviously it had something to do, this was a dairy farm, a large scale dairy farm, but either way, when I took my kids for walks, Lordy, would you smell that? It smelled like a sweet, more sour, a very sour fermented grass smell. Almost nauseating because it was so strong and concentrated. That is what I smelt, both before and most certainly while breaking up this crumble cake. So I thought, dang, this is something that is going to be extremely new and possibly not so inviting to sip. With that said, it's in the taste. But thank the pipe tobacco heavens, it's a rather blustery day. That flavor is not even remotely as strong and pungent as it was when I was breaking it up in the flavor. Now this blend has rum infused or cased Virginia, and then it has black Cavendish, Latakia, and an Oriental Turkish blood with it. Those are your main components. None of those components are ones that are foreign to me. I have sipped plenty of blends that have variations of all. So why this has such a sourness to it? Again, not that you can't get the sours from the Turkish Orientals, not that you can't get the sours from a cased Virginia. I think just somehow it blended together, pressed in that cake, fermenting as it does, right, in that crumble cake form. All those juices all pressed together. I think it just created a much stronger, stringent sourness, vegetation sourness to it. So with all those descriptions of disparagement, this is actually a decent blend. Like so many other blends of tobacco, certain times it's like, man, I don't know, this shouldn't really work, but somehow, because, people out there know a heck of a lot more about blending tobacco than I do, thank goodness, it works. And so that's what happened here. It worked. So, along with that sour note, that sour grassy note, there is plenty of that smokiness. There's plenty of that Latakia flavor in here. And again, there's that Oriental flavor in here that has that incense soury kind of an aspect to it too. And with that said, for me, some Orientals will be much more of a sour Oriental than a sweet one, and that sweet incense opposed to a sour note. And this one's definitely more on the sour than that sweet incense kind of Turkish Oriental blend. And I don't want to make that seem as though this doesn't have any sweetness to it, because it actually does. It is a somewhat sweet blend as well. Sweet, sour, smoky, and woodsy, very woody, earthy kind of a flavor in there as well. It's a very dense, very heavy texture. The smoke is very, you can chew this as you sip it. But it's not rough. It's a smooth smoke. There isn't any perique or anything in here. The retrohale is smooth. It is good. So, Black Frigate from Cornell and Diehl. Not a bad blend whatsoever. I could see myself purchasing this one again. I could. There's certain blends where it's like, I'll give it its run for its money, and then, possibly by accident, most likely, visit it again. Then there's others where it's like, no, when this ends, I'll probably get another batch to keep in my rotation. I think I enjoy sipping this one enough that it will be one that I will want to go back to when I'm in the right mood for it. Again, I'm very much I'm a very emotive sipper. my emotional status and what I'm doing very much governs what I'm in the mood for and what I reach for in my tobacco cabinet. But no, a very hearty blend. As far as that rum component, I suppose I certainly should skip over that piece. Seems how it's kind of a flagship component, but it's funny, it's there, but it is so subtle, much more there on the retrohale than anything else. A bit on the back of the tongue, oddly, where it's more of a sweeter component. I do have a sipping technique that I'm sure I must share with many, or at least a few, where I kind of do this. It's always fun trying to describe this. It's like I put the very tip of the stem just past the lips, and it's like I'm not even sipping. It's just kind of like more of a mouth motion, and it's enough to just draw in a wisp, and then I kind of like do a little bit of back pressure, and it comes out the sinus, and I'll kind of just almost like a diaphragm just flexing, and it's just enough. And it's a fun thing to do when looking for subtlety for me. Again, this is Zach. But it's so cool as far as the smoke goes, and it's not overbearing. It's so small that I just think that as far as just the molecules, as far as like what's in that smoke, it doesn't overwhelm the senses, and so I can pick out a lot more. When I do that with this, I get more of that rum flavor. And so I think it's just that there's a lot going on in this blend. that when you have like a good mouth of it, it's just harder to detect the rum. But it's certainly there. But anyway, great blend. Should you be in the market for such a blend, I would definitely recommend Cornell Diehl's Black Frigate. It's worth a shot. It's not all that expensive. It's pretty much the same as most of their blends that aren't special edition. So until our next review, be well and happy sipping.